On behalf of Dynamics CISO, I welcome all of you to yet another episode of Engaging Conversations with the Cybersecurity Leaders. The world specifically, India, when we talk about, has been battling the second wave of COVID and we're expecting the third one. The wave several times has been lethal, more fatal, and has shaken us to the core more than the first one. As we try to halt the spread of this virus, it is no longer merely an experiment, about working remotely and working about from the safe confines from our home. It's the new norm, the new normal, as we call it. The normal world that we all hope, should return back soon, though we don't have an idea when, post the pandemic, withers away entirely and will be dramatically different from one that we have lived prior to 2020. But the question which is grappling all of us is, what exactly will be different? And around the same time frame last year, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled "Coronavirus Sets Up the Accelerated Push to Cloud for Cybersecurity Industry." It in a way forecast some of the changes that the pandemic is accelerating in the world of cybersecurity. In brief, basically, it is going to be uncertain, unpredictable, and unheard of. However, this trend of the working from home, the remote working has very boldly underlines the benefits of cloud-based services that can quickly be deployed, scaled up for decentralized employees. But this overnight change to work from home has challenged even the most prepared organizations. Everything from network infrastructure to the devices that we use for work to a strategy for safeguarding the user identities, the corporate data, everything had to be rethought and reimagined. There is a lot that has changed, and there is a lot that will change as we go into the future. To talk of all these things and more, we have with us Mr. Deepak Talwar, National Cybersecurity Officer for Microsoft India. A small brief about him. He's very passionate cybersecurity leader responsible for Microsoft security engagements with customers, industry partners, and policymakers. At Microsoft, he is responsible to drive security as a trusted advisor to government, enterprises, industry partners to shape their cybersecurity strategy, support policies, and future regulations which can increase cyber resiliency and safety for the country. Welcome to the show, Mr. Talwar.
Thank you, Smruti. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me here virtually.
Thank you so much, sir. Not wasting any more of the time, let's dwell directly into the discussion. So my first question to you, sir. I was talking about the pandemic, and the pandemic has made all the industries more vulnerable, and especially from a cyber security perspective. How do you think the Indian companies are addressing the cyber attacks?
Thank you, Smruti. Great question at the right time as the recovery from the pandemic gets underway, as you rightly mentioned. To be honest, the world will require much more. You have also started with, so let me say, much more from the cloud and the demand of innovation, more to say. So in this pandemic time, rather hope with the faster recovery time, there is a huge demand out of the digital transformation, which has been accelerated twice or thrice the way it was in earlier years or even a decade, right? And the cybersecurity is at the central challenge of this digital age, Smruti, to say so. If you see the cybercrime rate, if we go back from 2019 and 2020, the first 3 quarters where we started with the journey of COVID-19, there is a similarity which we need to understand between COVID-19 and cybercrime at all, all the time. So this have grown multifold. The time we were seeing there is nuances of work from home, which was in a very limited time. We did not got time to adopt to digitization, online transactions, payment industry. So the road traffic was suddenly getting to zero and the internet traffic was at peak. That's the thought we can look into. And while this internet traffic was going up, Smruti, there was a huge shift which has happened in the industry of IT, in the tech industry, non-tech industry. If I can say, every company today is a tech company. So you don't have to be an IT company. So everybody has to get adopted. That's point number one. The second, in September 2020, Microsoft released a digital defense report, just to come to your point of cybercrime and cyber threats. And how Indian community is looking globally. If you see that digital defense report of Microsoft talk about 3 top areas. One of them is cybercrime, which has got multifold increase. The second is obviously nation state threats. It is part of crime, but I would call it as it has a larger espionage and impact globally, and the third is remote workforce. So in totality, all this together has created, the impact for any country, not only India. Coming to India, India is one of the top 3 countries which got impacted by any cybersecurity threat. Just to name few: ransomware, email phishing, right? You read any of the latest report from Microsoft, from the industry bodies, partners, you will hear the type of cyber attacks in email phishing. You and me receiving business emails that gets compromised, which we call BEC, business email compromise. There are advanced persistent threats or the targeted attacks which has happened, right? That's one part of it. Now, there is also, we need to understand in terms of the India security market, the cyber impact was also relevant to the industries. So the government funds, Prime Minister's fund, COVID funds got impacted. They have got, penetrated and attacked many a times. Thanks to Government of India, we have a very good security posture, improvement, automation, technology adoptions. But yeah, that's how we I would respond that India was, partially in the preparation mode, but these attacks have fallen into any of those countries. Now, the good part is that cyber industry has a lot to do with critical infrastructure and corporates, mid segments, MSMEs, right, and consumers, right? So the disruption was very, very different. So if I use a legacy device at home and I'm connected to my basic router and devices, not change any passwords and all, and I got disrupted, I'm prone to disease, same like COVID-19. It's like a cyber hygiene, So those are some of the points to open the conversations.
Okay. So, what you said about the ransomware, the cyber hygiene specifically, what you said is right. It's very devastating to know, suddenly what I ordered in Domino's, the value that I have ordered for pizza suddenly is available if I just put in my mobile number. It's a very scary situation. So what are the organizations in India doing enough to make the employees be aware about cybersecurity, or is it only limited to the larger companies or in the regulatory industries?
I mean, it's not just few organizations to solve the complexity of cybersecurity, right? Because the threats, it's the threat intelligence, how you are utilizing as a corporate, what tools and technologies you're using. Are you really adopting the new technologies, for instance? Are we only following the regulatory guidelines as a tick mark to say so, right? To be regulated, and yes, they will be more secure compared to the MSMEs or even some of these sectors who have not been part of this digital acceleration or not ready. Same like COVID. But there cannot be just one company to solve the security challenge, and are they ready for it? So yes, the disruption happened overall, Smruti. So the impact was for every company. That is point number one. Were they enough ready or being enough aware? The technical savvy organizations, IT-enabled services, banking and financial sectors, smart companies adopting the technologies on time, companies who were automated. If somebody has gone suddenly tomorrow on 10,000 users remotely connecting and their devices are not secure, I mean, it does not matter which domain or sector you belong to, right? And that's why as organization, when we talk as Microsoft also, we are talking, end-to-end security, integrated security. So were there awareness there? I mean, to be honest, India was fairly at a very great state. If I put the context of Indian as as our country, but on the other side, if you see the sectoral, differentiation, there are huge work was supposed to be done when somebody was, got into the issues of identity, digital identity loss or cyber frauds, financial frauds. By the way, we are using our mobiles and doing all these transactions, right? How are you utilizing your smartphones, which is also configured with your application, corporate applications, personal email. So there is no line for the corporate or the personal, divisions when you are connecting directly to the internet in the current era and from the past few months and years, right? So those digitally, savvy companies were better in the regulated industry, but that's not the answer. As I said, it has to be a public-private partnership. There has to be a global threat intelligence where government and public and private companies, provide threat intel so that the community is safe, right? Our country has CERT, the CERT in India, where they saw, the first and second quarter of the total security versus 2021 was doubled, as I said, right? And their information flow, which is happening across the consumers, what to use, how to access, the collaborative platforms which we all use, how secure they are, education community when children are accessing the internet, the applications, are they aware? And by the way, whether they have to be only aware or devices need to be intelligent enough to make their life easy and they should study, you know. So those things in totality you need to look into when you say, is the organization safe or is the regulated industry safe? But from a corporate standpoint, it depends. Have you been on cloud computing journey? Have you been on AI automation? Have you been into adopting something called as zero trust? I'll talk a little bit more if time permits today. So those are some of the things which were accelerators also when you're thinking about security.
You're right, sir. But what I realized, I've been speaking to a lot of technology leaders of late, and the digital transformation was a must-have. Was the first a nice-to-have technology for all industries. You talk about SMEs, SMBs, middle-sized, or the large corporates, whatever. But because of the pandemic, the acceleration suddenly changed from a nice-to-have technology to a must-have technology, and I believe that a lot of people did not take into consideration the security part at the time when, because of the pandemic struck as well. And now that with all the attacks coming in, all what you keep hearing is all about what was not taken care at the time when you go you digitally transform yourself. And this is where we are. And I think, what a lot has to be taken care. So, in the last 6 months is when we have heard a lot about ransomware and the email phishing and everything. What are the other trends that you have seen when it comes to cyber attacks, and how do you think have they evolved? I mean, I don't want to say that, they have evolved globally and come to India, or have they come, evolved from India, like how they are talking about the Delta variant, etc. But I'm just generally saying, all the companies had to be very agile and very business resilient in this period. So what are the kind of trends that you have seen in the last 6 months when it comes to cyber attacks, and for the benefit of the community, which are the trends you foresee?
Okay.
Which we should be aware of.
Okay, let me try to follow the question. So let me directly put into the first, even the last 12 months, it has a lot of relationship compared to the 6 months as well. So if you see the entire past 12 months, there is a watershed year evolving cyber threats in the three eye-opening fronts. I have shared from 2020 Digital Defense Report, but coming to this year as well, the type of attacks remain in those three buckets only. It's not very different. But let me share with you. Security has reached its inflection point because of the growth of digital estate. That digital estate is seeing the 45 billion plus IoT devices, $6 trillion of the cyber attacks, and similarly $5 trillion of the investment which are happening in the infrastructure of security. These should be also can be thought as a trend, but these should also give the signals that where do we see in the past 6 months which has happened. Nation state threat, when I said this is a double click statement to be done right now, is when you are seeing an example of solar winds. I'm sure you might have read a few articles about solar winds, where the one of the Orion platform got impacted, and it was a supply chain attack. One of the largest attack, if I can say, in the near history, which has seen the impact of 18,000 Orion customers, but it has been implanted during the build. That means when I'm building it up at the build stage. So when it is being implanted, and then if anybody is using a platform, they get into that impact horizontally and laterally, and you won't even get to attribute it, who started it, how it came from. So that is one thing we need to double click, that the sophistication and determination of attacks have increased. That's point number one with nation state and supply chain. And to triple click as well, the critical infrastructure, energy, utility, power. So now the attacks are not only seen whether it is just script kiddies or some fraudulent. Now the attack is, losing the brand, losing your data exfiltration. The COVID-19 has a lot to do with research, R&D, We cannot go out without talking about healthcare system, where that can be impacted, how the vaccines are being developed, what is the future of medical. This has changed a worldwide disruption. So definitely that's point number two, that there is a lot of impact related to targeted industries, healthcare, COVID warriors who are working on those, how those mechanism, machinery, tool, technologies they use. If you go and disrupt the healthcare system, patients may not be able to get their things nicely, right? The platforms need to be secured where we are accessing it. The application which you're using on phones and all, that has been attacked huge, because there are humongous number of applications and customization happening, right? So those are some of the things which we have seen as a larger impact. Let me share that there are terms as well now being defined, an acronym called private sector offensive attack. It is as defined as an acronym that this will be a private sector defined offensive attacks, or having a targeted or espionage to collect the data from defense intelligence, from the ministries, from the corporate industries and smart cities and so on and so forth. And the third and final development worth noting was more obviously in the challenging time, when it was an intersection with COVID-19 type of situations. Right. So every time if there is a COVID-19 requirement, you might have seen the recent impact in India, where everybody was looking after oxygen cylinders. The world was looking after ICU bed. And what is the medium to connect? You and me will connect, open the mobile or connect to our laptops and desktop and try to access the applications and try to, see. So now what is there on those sites? Whom are you accessing? Who is identifying you? People have been, victims to fraud, where they were looking for oxygen cylinders and they have paid the money online, right? Or fraudulent attempt. So it's an emotional impact also. It's a stress which has been developed. So I would put into these four categories. Now the trend which is talking about is, we were always doing a backup plan or a contingency plan for 30 days, 90 days. Though we have long-term plans or contingency plan, BCP planning, disaster planning, in cybersecurity, risk management, incident management, but that was never forecasted for more than 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, that type of situations. Now that likely we will be in a hybrid work environment, if I can say, not complete, being outside, or maybe not completely at home, but whatever condition we will be, that digital estate will grow. So for that, your basic mindset, the basic security practices need to be changed. So that's another trend which is coming up, that how are you going to adopt the hybrid workplace? How are you going to securing your, smart devices, and with the thin line of internet, how you are going to make sure that each and every technology which you are embracing, you are going to be, part and parcel in terms of awareness, So reskilling, not skilling, reskilling, unlearn and learn the technologies and processes which we adopt. I can't be talking to my organization's security in the same manner which I was doing it last year. Now I connect to my device. I see how I'm integrated with my router and switches. Thanks to Microsoft, I don't have to worry about from device. So we say security from chip to cloud. Wherever I am, I don't even worry if my laptop gets closed right now. I have my all data backed up, everything, at different ways, not to share, but this is how the integrations are. But the reality, what I'm saying is, we, the first respondent to security, also have to tell whether you are secure in the cloud and security of the cloud. So we have to make sure that we also have our own platform secured. That's another thing which, from a cloud service provider, the industry will see in future. And the last part, which is very, very important, is how you are managing data. Because data is becoming the, we keep saying data the new oil, data the new money, data the new currency. But the most important thing is data, the privacy of the information for individuals. The security just is not security. It will be security, compliance, identity, and how you are stitching that together in the management interface, right? Just to conclude, a corporate of a large corporate or a medium corporate, Smruti, uses 40 to 70 products in security, right? And the complexity of that security is one thing which I would feel the future will look into: a tighter integration, a single window, a holistic approach. Compliance cannot go in a north direction, and we talk security on a south direction will not work. So how do you comprehensively integrate, give them 100% assurance, and at the last a shared responsibility model? That's more on the process side of it. That will change, and for that technologies and all will keep playing, whether it is IoT, AI, and the smart devices and all, which will keep playing their roles as well.
I think you opened the eyes for a lot of community members. In the paucity of time, I still would want to ask a lot of questions, but last two questions. What are your suggestions for the industry, to ensure that they remain more vigilant and adopt more of the best practices in security?
Sure. I think we have an offline discussion as well, just to find how the world is. And you shared, let me add that small piece as well. In the standard term, we say people, process, technology when we are thinking of the designing of the entire process of, and whether it is security or blueprint of security or digital transformation. And we all have been exchanging those discussions that people is the weakest link, right? So while your question is relevant, it is very important. Before I talk about little bit of technical stuff, I shared there has to be a people's awareness, reskilling, and it is also about fixing the basics first. Think of the largest corporate, smallest organization, startups, government, or the structured organizations or well-regulated organizations. More than 70% of attacks, Smruti, of whatever nature came from network, internet, ransomware, malwares. It may have their own sophistication, but it happened because of a mistake, an error in configurations, right? Or it has happened because of legacy or an operating system. I am still, it is disheartening for me to believe that I am on Windows 7, if somebody says that, right? And then not updated on latest patches and all. So the first thing to be vigilant is not to change or make a disruption or invest millions of dollars. That's not the case which COVID has to change. The most important learning which we all has fix the basics. Let me quantify that. Various organizations may not have 100% upgraded to software update, operating system, patching the systems, authentication, multi-factor authentication. How many people are utilizing their social networking websites, smart devices, from where we order groceries and all, and when you authenticate, you have a mechanism to look into whether you are patched, whether you're using 2FA or not. For the corporates, definitely we still see a huge gap, even in the largest corporate, to accommodate 100%. It's a great impact, but how do we reach 100% so that everybody is part of that, digital identity, whether you are passwordless, multi-factor authentication, your endpoint security. That is first part of the fixing the basic. The second part, which is important in fixing the basic, is when you get those intelligence, I got an email and all, that's more of an awareness. In early days, you have heard of washing your hands for 30 seconds. Psychologically, till the time I don't start, I was always on 15, 20 seconds. Think about it, right? Similarly, when you start your emails, when you access, we are part of security 100%. I am secure with Microsoft 100%. But still, you need to give a due diligence, as we say, the normal practice in cyber hygiene, right? And this, I am talking to everyone. I'm not sharing it in terms of enterprises listening, but even for the consumers, education community, academia, government, everyone all together. These are basic, requirements, requests. So utilize that threat intelligence, which we all are building and sharing and everything. And third, on the basic practices, is we cannot, as a corporate at least, be the last one to harness the adoption of technologies. So you can't be doing pilot of the basic security with AI, though it has to be responsible AI, ethical use of AI. But we do need, more pilots, more projects, because the disruption is pretty fast, right? Utilizing ML logics, doing the automation adoption. Very quickly, let me summarize, because this is going to be a little lengthy answer to you. It has to be a little more technical as well. At the second side, just to change the role of an NSO at Microsoft, we are very passionately into a zero trust mindset. And I keep repeating that because it's not a tool or a technology. It's a complete approach. It's a mindset which encompasses all types of things. We wanted to security inside out, outside in. That means, Smruti, the security which is from the outside world to inside, which we all take care of it. But when it is an insider risk management, do I have tools, technologies to manage it, right? How that, compliance and regulations work for inside to outside, right? So in layman terms, zero trust is never trust, always verify, right? Whether you are inside out or outside in. I will also get authenticated from my Windows, even if I am an employee of Microsoft, right? And similarly, I am going to vet everyone who is trying to connect to me. So that is one part. So our approach is definitely to address security, compliance, identity, as I said earlier, and it should be interdependent whole to extend the protection for all data, devices, identities, and platform, whether you're on cloud platform, hybrid platform. So the word which I for use, data, devices, identities, and platform, and clouds all together, right? It has to be looked all as a part of the whole, interdependent. That is how we see as an organization, as an industry, facing CISOs externally when CISO asks that what should we do. So this is one of the technical things. Organization must adopt zero trust approach, and that can be all. And the 4 quick lines for you in zero trust world, because everybody listening may need to understand what is that zero trust and how to adopt it. So identity, as I shared, the starting point for zero trust is fix that identity. Now that's a different journey. I can't talk too much on that, but everybody can have that, setting up that, their infrastructure, digital identity to be secure. Then simplifying the situation of assume breach. That means as an organization to believe I'm breached already, right? That's called assume breach. And that's why you will create what if I am breached, what I would have done, prepare that pre-breach and post-breach. So now you are ready that if you are the next one to get attacked, right? That's what unfortunate thing which we were talking earlier, saying CISOs, what would they like to do? Are they having a fear? Do they have a concern? So the reality would be that though they would not like to be next into seeing any attack, part of any cyber attack. And it's not because of CISO, right? I'm representing CISO community outside, and I can share, it's not that sleepless night. It is more to do with, are my users, secure? Like for the government, the citizens secure. Are me as corporate, my users, my colleagues, peers are secure? Are they using secure devices? Are they connected? And obviously, if there is an attacks and all, are we prepared for it? Those things, if it is prepared well with identity, security, compliance, which I said protects out, and fourth, skilling. With these 4 ways of delivering security, you can achieve zero trust model. That is one model I can share in short time. And second, obviously, please do not be the last one to capitalize on, adoption, assuming, putting the barriers. So avoid that innovation barriers, capitalize AI on what is possible for you. Please engage the journey of cloud computing, and those things will help you scale and be digitally savvy.
Great. So I think I loved your one line which you just said for all the companies for takeaway. It's not just the CISO community or anybody who's hearing us today, the conversation. Fix your basics. I think very simple term, but very apt for everybody. You already answered my next question, which I was going to ask you. What is your biggest fear as a CISO? So I would still ask you the question, what is your biggest fear as a CISO? And what is your agenda for 2020?
Okay, so, as per my role, I represent the external CISO community, not that the CISO who is looking after the IT of an organization. So I carry a larger load and emotional EQ as well when I speak to any of our community CISO or chief digital officers or even CIOs today, because as we all say, it is no more in that small room. When we say security is a board level agenda, right? It has got everyone. That's first part to remove that barrier. So it's not IT, not even it's CISO, if I can say. The fear right now is how do I recover from COVID-19, and that COVID-19 is not just getting vaccinated. How do I get cyber vaccinated? How do I recover from economy? And by the way, how do I make sure each and every employee is secure digitally? That's first part. If you ask me that what is the fear right now, even any entrepreneur or any of the largest CXO will think like that. The second thought, which is obviously not a fear, I would say, but a concern is, are we close to 100% secure? So we are in the journey of 60-70% whether we have adopted technology. And we always feel the complexity of tools, technology is so much that there is a concern, not a fear, that what to adopt, what to not to adopt. So I would say not a confused state, but it's a worrisome stage that the complexity to be simplified is another concern, not fear, right? And the third part is, how do I look into a long-term approach while everything is changing? The time is less, right? So most of the CIOs, CXOs, CFOs, especially the CISO community who are more from the tech side of it, are thinking of the 360-degree shift on changing the process and regulations and other stuff. And the last part, I can't leave the dais without saying that everybody is concerned about the data and privacy, and obviously CISOs, defending the privacy of the employees and organization and all of us. So we all are concerned about that. Is your information secure? So digital estate, the devices, the technologies, the processes, and definitely the data are some of the things which make me worrisome if I have a sleepless night, and I would not like to be the next one who should get ransomware attacked. And the worst part, when I say, oh, I would have done 2 steps more, like adoption of cloud, just an example, right? Not the only thing, but this is how it is. Very quickly touching on 2021 and what are the strategies and all. It is a simple strategies. Think of the priorities of your organization. Most of it as a cloud service providers, we definitely have our security principles, how you define the architecture. I shared about zero trust approach, create a blueprint, do the basic things fix first. That's important. But the most important thing I would see is definitely we need to look into subject matter expertise. Don't own everything. In 2020-21, there is a lot to do with the deep thinking and skilling, and a lot of soft skills also will come into play, while we have already gone hard time when we are connected remotely for 18-20 hours, right? And that's where we fall back on that and be on the up to date on information and all. So there is a learning curve which needs to be changed for all of us. What we have learned may not work. And second, you need to be in the journey as a corporate, as an enterprises, that how do you embrace on those new technologies in 2021, right? And the third one, which is most important, is you definitely have to be in the tech part. So even if it is a non-tech, most of the organizations, for example, are non-tech. They are working on chemical industry and other. They also need to be a little bit tech as a 2021 overall. This statement is not for enterprise, but this is how it has to be eye-opener for many of it, that don't think that because you are not part of technology, you can run a healthcare center. If you're not enabled with technology, you're not aware of those technology, you can run your, any of the aerobic center or any of those centers, right? So all those tech, enablement is for everyone. So security has to be everyone's responsibility. It cannot be some of them who will utilize it. It cannot be one enterprise which can embrace it and you start adopting technology. That may not work.
So I think, after this dynamic conversation that we are having, I unfortunately don't have, we're in paucity of time, as I said, otherwise this would go on and on. But one thing I have already noted down, and I'm going to ensure that I ask any next person whom I'm going to speak to. I always usually ask, are you safe? Have you been vaccinated? Now I'm going to ask, have you been cyber vaccinated?
Have you? Oh, I don't know. This is a point came right now. Thinking the relationship, the intersection of COVID-19 and the security. There is a common factor. So just to keep put it at rest. Finally, there is a large amount of learnings which we can learn from COVID-19, that how we have gone in the first 3 months as a country which you started, and we have grown really well, if you ask me. The digital transformation, the enablement as a country, India has taken in the next, after the first 3 months of chaos, it has been dramatic. Same the way we have seen the second wave, the activity which has happened. I mean, by God's grace, everybody will get vaccinated pretty soon. But this is how you need to be cyber vaccinated, cyber ready.
Great, sir. Thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of Dynamic CISO, I would like to thank you for this conversation and sparing your time for our community.
Thank you, Smruti. Thank you for having me here. It was a wonderful discussion with you, a lot of learning. Before I left, we also have work from home, light disruption suddenly.
Yes, I can see that.
But
thank you so much.
It was a very well discussion. Thank you, Smruti, for having me here. Bye. Goodbye.